Hey everybody, this week's tutorial series for Flowlab is going to teach us how to make a single screen platform game. So it's one screen. We're eventually going to build more levels onto it, but right now we're going to start with a start screen and and one level. So make sure that you're logged into Flowlab. Make sure you're in your free account associated with your school ID, your school email, and click New Game. So you should be on the My Games screen. There's a bunch of menu stuff at the top. Just so you know, if you want to scoot ahead on some stuff, check out the Help menu. So if I right click on this and open this Help section in a separate page, there's a previous set of video tutorials we went through a couple of weeks ago. There's some user guide, behaviors handbook. One thing I found really useful when I found it was the helpful examples page, and there's a bunch of stuff in here that shows me little tiny pieces of stuff to do. So if you want to jump ahead, look through here if you're a go-getter and try that stuff. But today's tutorial, we're going to start by making the game setup, and we're going to add a start screen to it. And we're going to add some other stuff to it as we go. So one thing at a time. We're going to new game, and got a hands off for a second here. It's going to load. It's loading. It's thinking, and here we are. So it says please select a game project to start with. We always want to start with empty project at this point, and click OK. And this 10 by 10 grid area is our game start area, and it's kind of small really. If you choose a background color for this, let's look at the menu area at the bottom. There's a play button that plays the game. There's the library, which we'll get into later, but it's nothing in it right now. But you have to have objects, and you can reuse things from there in different levels, so that's easy. There's the game level screen, which shows us how many levels we're working with. And I think initially you get to have 5 on a free account, and eventually we're going to have as many as we want as soon as I get the thing bought. There's also a layer section, so there's 3 layers. There's the user interface where you can put things like buttons and scores, and there's a background layer where you can put things that don't interact, and then the game world is the main area of the game. And then finally settings is where we're going to go right now. So settings lets us name the game. So I'm going to call this single screen platform demo. And I want to make this, you can choose whatever size you want. You can stick with the 10 by 10 if you want. I want to go just a little bit taller. I need it still to fit on the screen, so I'm going to go 14. I'm going to go wide. And that gives me lots of areas within the game to work with. So I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to leave the gravity as it is. There's also an advanced section here where you can mess with your physics a little bit. Recommend leaving that alone for now. So say OK. And we're now going to go to game levels and change the background color. So I'm going to go with a nice bright blue shade like the sky, and I want to make sure I'm avoiding the far right side because that's going to be very bright and highly saturated or very intense. We don't want to have a really intense background because we want to focus on the foreground where the game is. So I'm going to click in the middle here. And one thing to know about this color picker that's in Flowlab is whereas in Photoshop and Illustrator you can sort of click and drag and slide and watch the colors change, here you actually have to click on the color. So if you want to change the shade here, you have to click rather than click and drag. So I'm going to go here and get a nice sort of light blue sky color and say OK. Now this is represented as a hexadecimal value, so as you add other levels you can always just copy the hexadecimals. So I'm going to say OK now, and alright, so now I've got my first part of the game set up and ready to rock. Next thing we're going to do is add a title screen.